And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, the left's utter incompetence has completely ruined our foreign policy, now creating chaos all around the world and a crisis right here in America. Now, the suicide bombings in Turkey and the terror attack in Orlando, they're just the most recent results of major missteps at every single turn over the past 7.5 years by President Obama and Hillary Clinton. Now, let's start from the beginning. Now, Barack Obama, remember, he kicked off his presidency by going on that apology tour. He was promising a new relationship with the Muslim world, which, of course, paved the way for instability and, of course, an explosion of violence now in the Middle East. He withdrew U.S. troops from Iraq. Well, that created an opening for ISIS to grow and take over cities that many Americans fought, bled, and died for. And then in Libya, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, well, they advanced the effort to remove Muammar Gaddafi from power. Remember, he was cooperating at the time. The country is since falling into chaos, and ISIS is now rapidly expanding there. Remember, the president drew that red line in the sand in Syria? Well, then he backed away from his promise to oust President Assad if he used chemical weapons against his own people, allowing ISIS again to further its foothold in that country and form a home base. And when it comes to fighting radical Islam, well, the president, he won't even say the words. Take a look.
For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam. This is a political distraction. So there's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point.
You know, less than 2 years ago, the president even referred to ISIS as the JV team. Remember, he said this, the analogy we use around here sometimes, and I think it's accurate, that is if a JV team puts on a Lakers uniform, that doesn't make them Kobe Bryant. And just one day before the terror attacks in Paris, remember that killed over 100 people? Well, that's when the president claimed ISIS was contained. Watch this.
But ISIS is gaining strength, aren't they?
Well, I don't think they're gaining strength. What is true is that from the start, our goal has been first to contain, and we have contained them. They have not gained ground in Iraq, and in Syria, they'll come in, they'll leave.
And then, of course, the Obama State Department, they even suggested the best way to defeat radical Islam, jihadis' jobs to jihadis. Watch this.
Killing them. We cannot kill our way out of this war. We need, in the longer term, medium and longer term, to go after the root causes that leads people to join these groups.
There's always going to be poor people. There's always going to be poor Muslims. And as long as there are poor Muslims, the trumpet's blowing. They'll join. We can't stop that, can we?
We can work with countries around the world to help improve their governance. We can help them build their economy so they can have job opportunities for these people.
And here at home, the White House has dangerously ignored the rising threat of radical Islam. Get this, the FBI now says that there are active ISIS-related cases now in all 50 states with over 1,000 total investigations. And the Department of Homeland Security, well, they banned the words jihad and Sharia. And when it comes to America taking in refugees from Syria, well, you know, the president, Hillary Clinton, they have flat out ignored the warnings from top U.S. intelligence and national security officials that are warning ISIS will infiltrate the refugee population.
We can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has never made a ripple in the pond in Syria in a way that would get their identity or their interests reflected in our database, we can query our database till the cows come home, but we're not going to, there'll be nothing show up because we have no record on that person.
There is some fear that some of these refugees may actually be posing as refugees, but they might actually be Al-Qaeda or ISIS terrorists trying to sneak into Europe or the United States. What do you make of that?
Well, certainly that's a possibility. I mean, you can't dismiss that out of hand.
We should be conscious of the potential that Daesh may attempt to embed agents within that population.
The group is probably exploring a variety of means for infiltrating operatives into the West, including in refugee flows.
Oh, and my favorite, after the Orlando terror attacks, well, Obama's Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, she claimed love was the best way to defeat radical Islamic terrorism.
Our most effective response to terror and to hatred is compassion, it's unity, and it's love.
Wow. And we can't forget about the administration. This administration negotiating a nuclear deal with the #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran, and giving them $150 billion. Now, there's also the failed reset with Russia. Now, we saw how that turned out with Vladimir Putin invading and then annexing Crimea. Now, the president has released Gitmo detainees. They've gone right back to the battlefield. Who does this? And the administration also gave F-16s, fighter jets, tanks, and over $1 billion to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt when Mohamed Morsi became their president. And just yesterday, the Select Committee on Benghazi, well, that report revealed that during the 2012 terror attack, that the administration was focused on crafting a narrative about an internet video while American lives were under fire and mortars were being shot at them. These facts are indisputable. After almost 8 years now, the left's incompetence has now led to disaster after disaster. It has now made the world and America less safe, your families less safe. Here with reaction, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. You know, think about less than 2 years ago, JV team, just before Paris contained. At the beginning of the administration, man-caused disasters, workplace violence, overseas contingencies. How could they be so wrong about such a grave evil threat in our lifetime?
I think it's got to be ideology that is overruling common sense and facts and truth. You can't possibly observe what's going on and say the things, for example, that John Kerry is saying, that we're winning the war against...
Oh, yeah, this was an act of desperation, he said. Yeah,
an act of desperation. Here's the reality of Islamic extremist terrorism, which I have been studying, prosecuting, investigating, and dealing with since at least 1970.
Did you do the blind sheikh case?
No, I didn't.
You didn't do that one, okay.
But my best friend, Judge Mukasey, was the judge on that case.
Right.
The reality is, when you give them weakness, when you stay on defense, they go on offense. So let's look at the period before September 11. We had the bombings in Africa. We had the attack
Kenya,
on the
Tanzania,
right, and then the one I will never forgive, which is the attack on the Cole, which is an actual war.
USS Cole.
Sailors killed.
Colbar Towers.
We did nothing about the Cole. Nothing. We took no action. Has to have created in bin Laden's mind. Let me push further. Let me push further. And Obama has done exactly the same thing. He's done exactly the same thing, except he's done it over and over again. And you've listed all of it. And I don't understand how you can view the world that way and feel that you are fulfilling your responsibility of protecting the American people.
How do you say love is the answer and banning words like jihad and Sharia? How do you function this way?
How about when they cut out I think it was the French Prime Minister who used the words Islamic
remember that?
Terrorism. The State Department took it out of the transcript.
Let me go through this.
I mean, this is absurd. He spends more time defending Islamic terrorism and
the terrible deeds in the name of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He goes in the Christian Crusades.
And here's where it has a practical impact when I look at it from a law enforcement point of view. The incident in San Bernardino. Neighbors saw those two people in the garage at night under suspicious circumstances. They didn't come forward because I think the logical deduction is they would feel like they were prejudiced because they were Arab looking. And had they come forward, who knows? We prevented a bombing in New York City when I was mayor because a police officer saw two Arab men acting suspiciously, reported it to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and they arrested them before they were able to do their bombing. I think that this is creating a fear of coming forward with information, this whole political correctness thing. It is not just a game. Words are important. The president is creating a fear within the bureaucracy. I think there's a fear in the FBI of being too aggressive.
No jihad, no Sharia. You know, we're going to use love.
That has an impact on the bureaucracy that is investigating this. I mean, you look at Zanaev.
Right.
Was that followed up correctly? Was that given to the local police? You look at the latest incident.
So they pull out of Iraq. They draw the red line. They don't follow through in Syria. Then they give Iran all this money. Then they release Gitmo detainees. Then they can't say radical Islam. Then they give Morsi, of all people. You know, he once referred to people that are the Israelis as descendants of apes and pigs.
Yes, right.
We're going to give him, the former head of a terrorist group, F-16s?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that the situation now in the world is completely his responsibility and to a large extent Hillary Clinton.
Can I ask you a question? How is everything so wrong, so often, and so backwards?
Because of the ideology.
It's all ideology.
When he became president, I had a big question in my mind. You know, I opposed him. You did. I opposed. I thought we're going to find out, is he a pragmatist or an ideologue? And he turned out to be an excessive ideologue. And I don't think he can view facts without this whole ideological strain. And exactly why he wants to spend so much time basically defending Islamic terrorism.
You remember, he was supposed to be uniquely qualified.
His theory is, if you say radical Islam, you're giving them more credit than they deserve. Well, first of all, they already have the credit. Everybody else says radical Islam, so it's absurd that he doesn't say it. And secondly, I think it's an insult to the good Muslim people. I think it's an insult to the good Muslim people when you don't point out that this is a certain group of radical Muslims. They don't represent the good Muslim people. It's the same thing with the mafia. When I first used the word mafia, I was criticized by Italian Americans using the word mafia.
And
I said the best thing to do is to stand up against them and prove to them that they're only a small percentage of Italian Americans. And Muslims should stand up and demand that he use the words radical Muslim and say he can use those words, and we're not defensive about it because we're decent, honest, honorable people. And we hate those people who are acting that way.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you.